Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to No Closer Show episode number 7. It is Thursday, November 10th. Just want to give a big shout out and happy birthday to the Marine Corps today. They turned 241 years, so congratulations, go Semper Fi. We are proud of all our Marine students, past and current. Thank you guys for your dedication and hard work as well to making this country great, along with the rest of the veterans as well, too. So, golly, we've had a very busy couple days here. We missed yesterday. I was up speaking at University Mary Hardin-Baylor in Belton, Texas, to a group of 2 classes, about 25 students. Had a good time there with them, talking about social media and business, along with event planning, how we use social media to drive people to our events. But today's episode is all about really Facebook stalking, and we'll get to that in a second. We got a new tape in of 93, 95 assets that we'll be breaking down. Half of them are occupied, the other half are unoccupied. Lower valued assets that we'll be breaking down and looking at and starting to post in some of our, actually kind of worked for our upcoming Note Mastermind group, which is just literally 3 weeks away. Wow. 3 weeks away for the Mastermind, the Magical Mastermind in Walt Disney World, Florida. So we're excited about that. Steph informed me we were over 60 people strong at that one, so it's going to be a big event. Excited at all the people coming from across the country to join us for 3 days of Note Fun there. So, but with today being about Facebook stalking, now a lot of people already do this. You know, I'm sure you are checking out guys are checking out girls, girls are checking out guys, girlfriends are checking out ex-girlfriends, wives are checking out ex-girlfriends of people to see what's going on out there. Now, a lot of investors don't think to do this with the real estate that they buy, especially on the non-performing note side. Since we're focused exclusively on that, our goal is to find out the story behind the story. Okay? When we get a spreadsheet in, we can see that the borrower has not been paying for a year or 6 months or 4 years or 5 years, and we'll try to figure out what's the case, what caused that. You know, Nicole, you guys had a deal you were looking at just recently. You're telling me about a couple stories. What was one story where it looked like the borrower had a baby?
Oh, they just had a child, and they were struggling to take care of, have things for it.
Now, how did you realize that? Was it just based that you see on Facebook that they actually said it, or what?
They posted a bunch of things on the or Facebook about their newborn, and then they were asking for money and supplies and stuff like that for their child.
Wow, so that can definitely tell you, hey, you had a kid, they're struggling. What are you going to put? You're going to put milk on the table, or you're going to pay your mortgage? You're going to probably put milk on the table, food on the table. Now, it was you, Ryan, that found the one that we found a guy who used his mortgage payments for something a little bit more creative?
That wasn't me.
Oh, wasn't you?
That wasn't me.
All right. Jennifer, it was you? You found somebody that used their mortgage payments for something creative? Something a little bit more attractive?
Yeah, I don't know if it'd be more attractive. Yeah, for a personal change in their life.
So we basically, she's trying to be politically correct. We found somebody who's going through a transition period. Let's just put it that way. They decided to pay for boobs versus pay their mortgage. He decided to pay for boobs instead of pay for his mortgage. So that's always an interesting thing when you're dealing with that aspect of that. Could tell you, does he want to stay or are you going to leave? So you find all sorts of interesting things. We have found borrowers that were deceased on Facebook. We have found people that went through divorce. We found, as you guys said, you found a lot of single moms that were going through things. So we can identify with that. Why is this important? Why not just go ahead and foreclose, get it over, take the real estate back? Well, I made that mistake earlier on in my note investing business. I was coming from the fix and flip side. You know, I want to buy a property, I want to rehab it and sell it and make a big check on it. I didn't want to keep it for a rental portfolio for cash flow. I didn't want to owner finance it because it was a difficult time to sell the mortgage unless you've got 12 to 18 months of seasoning. So why do we do this? Well, we don't necessarily not have a heart. I mean, we don't run a charity. I donate to charities. I don't run one, okay? But if you can find a true win-win that helps the borrowers, where we can find, okay, they are struggling. What was their existing mortgage payment, okay? What is that compared to local rents? Because that's one thing you guys are all checking out, right, everybody? Mm-hmm. Is what is the rents compared to the mortgage payments? Now, what are you guys finding? Are you finding that rents are higher than their existing mortgage payments or less? What's the situation across the board? It's probably a mixed bag, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pretty mixed.
It's pretty mixed. So that's one great way of finding out really what your, I don't want to say preemptive strike is, but your preemptive exit strategy is. If you really want to modify and keep people in their houses for great cash flow without having to deal with any of the work of the property, without having to put any foreclosure costs out, like attorney fees, a lot of servicing costs, or repair to the property to get it up in a sellable condition. I mean, you've got somebody living in the property that enjoys living there already. So keep that in mind, that those are opportunities that, A, if you can find out what their rent is and compare it to what the existing mortgage payment is. So if the rent is higher than their existing mortgage payment, then they should be planning on staying in the property because it's cheaper. So it's in their best interest to modify the loan or reinstate the loan more so, and then bring on either a co-borrower, somebody to take over payments for them, someone, or a cash for keys to get them out of the property. All right. A long drawn-out foreclosure process doesn't really help anybody. Now, if we find that their existing mortgage payment is a lot higher than rent, you as a borrower, you as an investor, had better expect to adjust down that mortgage payment, crop it down to something in line with market rents, if it makes sense for you, if they can afford that, if they can bring 3 to 4 months of back payments to the table. All right. Now, that's always kind of a touchy subject with people. Like, oh, I don't know, how much should I ask for from a borrower? Well, you don't care where that money comes from. So you don't care if they got a wicked jump shot or they're slinging crock rock. Okay. If they got a big screen TV and a Nintendo or gaming system versus books, I can always guarantee you that most of the bars that we have evicted from have always had a big screen TV and very little books. Okay? It's an unfortunate situation, but it is what it is. Most people are totally financially illiterate out there, and any help we can give them goes a long way. Cash or keys is sometimes just a conversation you got to have. Listen, you can't afford rent. All right? You can't afford the mortgage payment because this is less than what your market rent would be if you're out renting the same place. So let's just go ahead and come to a conclusion that you can't stay here. We'll give you cash to get moved out, provided that there's no junior liens or other stuff that would cloud your title. Then you would still have to foreclose or do a consent to judgment. But you have to realize, everybody, that, hey, there's a story behind the story. Now, there are plenty of properties that are vacant, where the people have walked, you can't find them, you're just going to foreclose. But as I said before, the biggest mistake I did earlier on was trying to buy real estate for the real estate side versus buying it for the paper side. And the paper side is really the most attractive side. I mean, ask any hard money lender, any traditional investor who's owner finance a property. Paper is great because you got cash flow coming in. All right, you control the property, you control the equity by being the first lien position. All right, you're not paying repairs. Somebody else is covering the taxes for you. So you become the bank is always the best way to be. Now, with the non-performing stuff, what's great is that we're buying this stuff cheaper than your REO buyers are. We have a lot of REO buyers. I should say it's REO bandwagon instead of the REO speedwagon, because you have a lot of fix and flip investors who are looking for assets. They're looking for deals, and they can't find them on the MLS or their postcard marketing or the yellow letter campaigns. Their door knocking's not working, and so they're going to the note side and valuing a property like they would an REO, and that's the incorrect way to do it. 70% or 65% of ARV minus repairs is not a formula people need to be applying to in the note game. The note game, you should be focused on the note, keeping the paper, holding on to it, keeping the borrower in the property if it makes sense on an ROI. And I guarantee the ROI usually makes sense not only on a quick term modification, we got cash flow for 6 to 12 months, but also the exit strategy that follows the initial strategy. Selling the note as a REIT performer at 85, 90%, or at a 15% yield to a hedge fund, or getting the borrower to get refinanced out through some sort of FHA financing. All right? There's a whole variety of different exit strategies with this. And the mortgage side, well, some people may be like, well, if I modify that, that's only really a 15% yield to me or 20% yield to me. When was the last time you saw 15, 20% in the stock market? Okay? 15, 20% is not a bad yield on the front end, but then you combine it with, okay, I have it for 12 months. I got 12 months of continuous cash flow now. It's a REIT performer. Now I can sell that off at a premium, and now you're looking at a windfall of another 30, 40% coming onto your ROI. So something to keep in mind. There's so many different ways and strategies to go with non-performing debt. It's kind of can be a very tricky journey sometimes. It's not straight and narrow. you have a lot of left turns and right turns that happen along the way. Sometimes you'll start foreclosure and it'll turn into a loan modification. Sometimes you'll start a loan modification and ends up in a foreclosure or a deed in lieu or cash for keys along the way. The biggest thing I can tell you is when you're buying distressed debt and going that route, it's just keep an open mind. All right. We have found that, by searching online, we finding out, hey, somebody's a professor, somebody is a bank manager. Okay. I bought a note on a property in California one time where the owner of the property, the borrower, was actually a vice president with Bank of America.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
That was a very interesting conversation on the call.
Wow.
Somehow he's able to pay his mortgage off pretty fast to me. Just trying to ride it out. All right. We've seen some crazy situations that happen. Now, we bought some property in Chicago that is turning out to be a bit of a pain in the ass. We got found out today or yesterday somebody broke in through our high-tech doors system and stole the AC and then all the mechanical, all that good stuff. You gotta love Chirac. It happens that way sometimes, but we're working through it. It's what insurance is for, and we're going from there. We got a couple other properties we're having evictions done because the borrowers, these were tenants in place that we had to evict because they didn't want to reinstate. They hadn't paid their rent to the existing borrower. We bought the note, foreclosed, offered them up a rental agreement, and they chose, oh, no, we're not going to pay. We're just going to try to stay here as long. So we're evicting them. We've had interesting stories. Some guy pulling a gun, somebody wearing a silver hat, running crazy. It is what it is. It's always an adventure in real estate. But the beautiful thing about notes is when you start to really help somebody that wants help, that will reach out to you, hey, I want to stay, I'm willing to pay, something that makes sense, it's always in your best interest to work with that borrower to make it a good win. We have any questions popping in or any comments from people?
Christina Fuller said rehabbing the borrower.
Exactly. That's a great point, Christina, is you want to come from it as a point of, my goal is to rehab the borrower and not the property. Rehab the borrower and not the property. It's going to be so much easier for you in the long run. So, because really when it all comes down to everybody, we're looking for ROI, return on investment, okay? And also return on time. So ROT and ROI, okay? Notes, if you can get somebody reperforming in the first 30, 60, 90 days, it's always going to make more sense versus trying to foreclose most of the time, okay? What other questions, comments? What else are we working on today, guys? We have... tomorrow is Veterans Day. A lot of the banks will be closed. We may have an episode. We may not. We may just work half a day and call it the rest of the day. Who knows? But we're working on, we've got our fast track training next week, next Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where we got investors coming in. I think we've got 2 spots left available for that, which is nice. So you're working on marketing for that, Ryan. Doing a great job with your Flash and the Superman stuff. We have a special thing we're working on for tomorrow, too. We got to tweak that up today. And then finalizing, pulling in phone numbers and Facebook posts and things like that off that 400 list. Oh, the fun. You never a dull day around here, though, huh?
No. Especially when you Facebook stalk.
No, and especially when you Facebook stalk, exactly. So I got 3 of the best Facebook stalkers you will ever find anywhere. Now, one of the most interesting stories that we've ever come across is from looking online to track down borrowers. Is I came across this tape and had some properties in Columbus, Ohio. All right. And I did a research. I just jumped on white pages or Google and searched that address, and what popped up at one of the places that I was looking at buying was a cleaning service. So I called that number to find out if it was a valid working number, and it worked. So I left a message. Hi, my name is Scott Carson. I am looking for somebody to help clean up a couple properties in Columbus, Ohio. And came across your information online. So hung up. I call the hedge fund. I make a bid on this asset and 2 others. And lo and behold, about 30 minutes later, the phone rings, and it's the borrower on the one. Okay? So she's like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, hey, we're looking for somebody to help us with a couple properties. Would you be willing to go by and do like a clean out? Once I have the realtors, I already had a couple properties in Columbus that I had her go take a look at. So she went and did it. I paid her for her services on that one. Once I closed on her mortgage, it was a very easy phone call to call her up and say, hey, you've done a great job on these other 2 properties, but I have to come from you from a different angle. We buy debt, and we just came across your mortgage, and we just purchased your mortgage on your house. I'd like to keep you in the property. What can we do? What kind of payment can you afford? And literally she's like, oh God. But it was a very warm conversation. She's still paying to this day. You know, we modified her payment from $650 to $500 a month. She's been making on-time payments. She paid about $1,500 down to stay in the property on it. And she also is willing to go buy any property I have in Columbus, Ohio, too, to help it out. So that was a real win-win. It was a real fast loan modification. Basically, we knew we could hit it modified before we ever closed on the property. Now, I never talked about her mortgage beforehand. That would be a violation of Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, CFPB. I just called and see if a number was working, and she was kind enough to call me back. So that's the real thing about sometimes Facebook and white pages and LinkedIn, especially if you can find somebody that has a LinkedIn profile. They usually have a little higher level. You can usually afford a little bit more because LinkedIn is a professional, obviously, social media website. So great thing to use those tools. Highly recommend it, guys. If you're not using that in your existing note business and your real estate business, you're really kind of missing out. It's well worth taking the time to run through 100, 200 assets to see if they're occupied, because it'll help you identify some gems that you probably look over and let fall to the wayside. So we found borrowers, we found family members, we found out that one lady ran a nonprofit. We found where she worked or her sister worked. With Facebook, you can often find a lot of relatives and come across a phone number or two or three or four. And just reaching out to it and understand what's going on and keeping those contacts ready so once you do close the notes, you can call them and work something out. So if there's not any other questions, it is a busy Thursday. I hope everybody has a very productive Thursday. Now that the election is over and all the bad-mouthing and trash talking hopefully is stopping, we hopefully you guys get back to working and knock some stuff out. So once again, guys, thanks for joining us on the Note Closer Show. This is episode number 7, and we'll see you guys tomorrow on episode 10. See you later.